Imagine sitting across from someone who is, experiencing just immense raw trauma.
Yeah, that is a really heavy situation.
Right. And your instinct is probably to immediately jump in, offer advice, just try to fix the pain. But what if the most powerful tool you actually have in that moment is just pausing?
Which is so much harder to do than it sounds.
It really is. So today we are doing a deep dive into your sources, specifically looking at the book Jom Mindful Gym Now, to see how clinical psychologist Tansing Wuing uses mindfulness. And not as some spa retreat concept, but as a high-stakes clinical tool.
Right, because it takes a really specific kind of presence to hold that space without, burning out or just shutting down completely.
Exactly.
And Tan's journey with this started well over a decade ago. She joined this structured training program called Mindful Gym. But what made it really stick with her wasn't just the curriculum itself, it was the localization.
Meaning it wasn't just imported Western concepts.
Yeah, exactly. It bypassed all that imported clinical jargon and used local cultural metaphors instead. So she don't have to mentally translate the concepts before applying them.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, she already understood the cultural language, so she could just immediately start living the practice.
Well, and the way the program defines mindfulness kind of strips away a lot of the mystique too, right?
It really does.
Because they describe it simply as remembering to pay attention to the present moment, just bringing along, a beginner's mind, kindness, and wisdom.
And framing it around that word remembering is such a crucial shift in perspective.
Totally. Because it makes it feel achievable. I mean, it's exactly like muscle memory in a workout.
Right.
You aren't aiming for this permanent, flawless state of Zen where your mind just never wanders. You're basically just building the mental reps of noticing the wandering and gently bringing it back. The act of returning is the exercise.
Yes, and the quality of that return is just as critical as actually remembering to do it. Well, bringing a curious, kind, and wise attitude to the moment. It changes the mechanics of the practice. It stops being this sterile, robotic mental technique and evolves into a deeply compassionate inner attitude.
But maintaining that compassionate inner attitude in an everyday setting is one thing. How does it even survive the intense reality of an actual therapy session?
That is the real stress test, right?
Oh, absolutely. Sitting across from a client dealing with severe trauma would test any mental framework.
Right. But Tan notes that she uses this exact presence to remain grounded and open. It actually allows space for vulnerability to unfold.
Because she's not rushing to fix it.
Exactly. When she is fully present, the shared space with the client becomes alive. She operates on this realization that nothing is more important than the exact moment they are experiencing together.
Yeah.
Because the present moment is literally the only moment we have.
Wow. But to actually pull that off when emotions are running that high, she relies on a specific tool from the program, right? The Mindful Think.
Yes, Mindful Think. She uses it to force an internal pause before she speaks to a client.
Okay.
She literally runs through the letters of the acronym before responding. She asks herself, is what I'm about to say true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind?
Which sounds very straightforward on paper, but I have to admit that feels completely counterintuitive in practice.
Oh, for sure.
Because when someone is in distress right in front of you, the human instinct is to immediately jump in with advice, right? To resolve that tension. Running through a 5-point checklist forces this very deliberate, almost unnatural pause.
It does, but that pause interrupts our baseline habit of just reacting on autopilot. And you don't have to be a therapist treating trauma to see the utility of that.
Right. Anyone could use it.
Exactly. You can apply that same think pause
in
a high-pressure corporate meeting or right in the middle of a heated family argument. It buys you the cognitive space to respond with actual care rather than just defensive reflexes.
That is such a practical takeaway. Looking back over her 10 years of integrating this, Tan reflects that this practice ultimately invites her to be more than just a competent professional.
Yeah, it goes way deeper.
It does. It allows her to be a whole and authentic human being when she sits with others. And she actually expresses a deep sense of gratitude to her first teacher, Dr. Fang, for embodying that exact authenticity.
Which is a great reminder that knowledge and psychological frameworks are most valuable when they're fully understood, localized, and applied to our shared humanity.
Absolutely. So we will leave you with this final thought to consider.
Okay.
If the hardest part of mindfulness isn't achieving perfect focus, but simply remembering to do it, what everyday object in your workspace could you use as a physical trigger?
Oh, I love that.
Right. What is one mundane thing you can look at today that will gently invite your mind back to the present moment?